What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ready Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Matt Llewellyn. Happy Friday night, Matt. How you doing this evening?
I'm hanging in there, Zach. Ready for some football this weekend. It's going to be an interesting one. I think both teams have some injury issues going in. It's going to be interesting to see if the 49ers can carry momentum from last week. All around, man, I'm just ready for football.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join there so you guys can share your thoughts and we can interact with your comments. If you're watching through Twitter right now, we can't see or interact with any of your comments. So make sure you come to our YouTube, hit subscribe. We want to interact and talk some football with all you guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We got a pretty cool show for you guys planned tonight. Obviously, this game has huge implications because it's kind of I guess, a tell of how the rest of the season is going to go. We saw the 49ers start to get the ship righted, I guess, get back on track against the Bears on Halloween, Matt. But how much value do you put into that win? They now face a beat-up Cardinals team, possibly without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. They didn't practice, it seemed like, all week, if I remember correctly, and Coach Cliff Kingsbury said that they don't need to practice. Specifically, Kyler didn't need to practice once to play on Sunday. Is this a Cowboys and Dak situation that they did last week, or do you really think there's a chance he might play without practicing at all?
I think it's going to be a game time decision. I think that they're, trying to give him as much rest as possible. I know that the ankle, they originally said it was going to be a 1 to 3 week injury. I think they said at the very least, even if he does play, there's going to be some limits there. So the time is right for the 49ers to kind of jump on Kyler Murray and force him into some mistakes. He might not be as mobile as he usually is, and that will just play into the 49ers' favor. But the team definitely has to take advantage of, Hopkins is less than 100%, Murray less than 100%. They got to do something, man. No J.J. Watt. Listen, it's lining up just right. We're getting, George Kittle back. It's lining up all aces for the 49ers, so they need to take care of business at home and get their first home win in over a year.
Oof, that hurts there, that last bit. I'll be there. So hopefully it's something entertaining. Hopefully it's something that the 49ers can pull off. And I think they can. Leonardo Cruz said, we beat the Cardinals. They got pretty close to beating them, and that was with Kyler Murray. So hopefully the 49ers are able to instill a nice game plan and get the job done the second time, because I think it's a winnable game. And I don't want to bite my tongue or eat my words in a couple of days once this game happens, but I do think that the 49ers have a good shot. Before we get into this preview, though, the big news of this week, obviously, Matt, Odell Beckham Jr. will be released, I believe, officially Monday. And fans of all teams are kind of begging for Odell to get claimed or signed to his team, depending if he clears waivers or not. How do you think that plays out? And do the 49ers have a realistic chance of landing him?
It's tough to say. I think that Odell, so it came out that Odell is actually the last 2 years of his contract are going to be voided. So he'll be a free agent after the year. So he really is kind of more in the driver's seat than we initially thought. I initially thought, hey, why not just, why not just pick him up, a bad team, whatever. He's still under contract for 2 years. See what you have in him at least. But Odell has enough in the tank that in terms of cachet and in terms of leverage with his contract being voided, that he can avoid, his agent can just come out and say, we're not playing for Jacksonville. We're not playing for Detroit. We're not playing for these bad teams. I know a lot of people are speculating New Orleans. New Orleans has nobody to throw it to him. It really does seem like he's going to be more in the driver's seat than initially thought. But as far as the 49ers go, I don't know if they have a realistic shot to get him. They'd have to move around some money. I know Parag's good at that, but at this point, they're in a quarterback controversy. So even if they kind of wanted Odell, would he want to come here? And then you have to, we just have a story where Brandon Ayuk gets into it with Kyle Shanahan. Do you want to bring on another wide receiver who could potentially be a headache? There's a lot going into this that we really don't know.
The Brandon Ayuk story was very, very interesting. We'll get into that a little later, but yeah, as far as Odell, I do think that the 49ers should at least look into it if he's clears the waivers and they have a shot. But that's a good point. Do they even have a realistic plan if they acquire him to get him involved. It seems like if he's not, I don't want to say motivated, but like 100% in it, then he kind of quits. We saw a little bit of that with New York. It looks like we saw that right now with the Browns. So if the 49ers season quickly takes a turn for the worst, are we going to get locker room diva type personality the 49ers definitely don't need? Um, yeah, Joey says there's so many hoops we have to go through to get OBJ. The only feasible way to get him is if we're his number one option and he makes the money work, which at this point in his career, maybe he would, but I just think that there are much better options for him, especially if he's trying to chase a ring. And this is all, again, depending on him clearing waivers, if he even has a shot. So again, that will be official as of Monday, the 8th. The Cleveland Browns, will officially release him. It was a bit interesting, though, how that whole situation played out. Leonardo says we should try it, take some pressure off of Kittle and Debo. We're getting Kittle back, Matt. George Kittle, Jeff Wilson, they all started practicing this week, and I believe Kyle said that George Kittle should play on Sunday, and Jeff Wilson might play on Sunday. How much does this help this offense getting these two guys back?
It should help. But again, we're going to be talking about the limitations of the quarterback position. It really comes down to, you can talk about what Kyle can scheme up. You can talk about the weapons. You can talk about this and that. But as of right now, Jimmy Garoppolo is a starter. He has to go out there and get it done. So whether that's, hey, get Kittle more involved, whatever, he just needs to make the right reads, limit his mistakes, and get the ball into the red zone and put points on the board. Plain and simple. We can't have situations where we go 6 points and a half, 9 points and a half, 3 points and a half, or whatever the case may be. Otherwise, we're going to start seeing Trey Lance a little bit more and more. So they can do it. They just have to show they can do it. And really, it comes down to Jimmy being consistent and stacking week upon week. That's going to be the key thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We saw the beginning of last week, the game against the Bears. It was very slow. I'll put it that way. Slow from the 49ers offense against one of the worst ranked defenses in the league statistically. And 49ers fans were kind of expecting a little more. And I'll just say there was that rumored story. Grant Cohn was the one who reported on it, saying that him and Kyle Posey of Niners Nation happened to see Kyle and Jimmy having somewhat of an animated discussion on the sidelines prior to the last drive of the first half. And according to Grant Cohn, which put as much weight behind this as you like, he said that he had a source tell him that Kyle told Jimmy, and again, parents, if you have kids watching, cover their ears. This is simple shit, Jimmy. Can you do it or not? And then we saw Jimmy Garoppolo go deep for Debo and led the team to a scoring drive. Should have been a 7, but it was 3. That's all right.
Yeah.
So it looks like if this is true, and again, people, if you don't believe Grant Cohn, that's perfectly fine. That's your right. If it is true though, and I kind of do believe it, it seems like there's a little bit of tension there at the quarterback position, and perhaps Kyle was ready to make that change to Trey if Jimmy didn't lead the drive to get points. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's hard to say what's truthful coming out of his mouth and what is kind of like, is he paying lip service a little bit to, to what fans want to hear? Because I know he feels the pressure from the fans. I know that, he knows that the fans are tired of it. I know that he's kind of tired of it, but he kind of has to ride the line between the vets and the people who want to see Trey play and all that good stuff. There's just been a lot of double talk, and so I just don't know what I believe at this point. But I do know that if Jimmy doesn't get things done and they lose games, that's when you're going to see Trey, and there's going to be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're losing, Trey is getting in there, like no question. Because at that point, like, what are you playing for? So Jimmy has to feel that pressure right now. And if he doesn't, then I mean, he's even more, ready to get out of here than we thought. So he's really playing for his next job. So you would hope that he could do, again, like Joey Arredondo says, he's an 8th-year vet, 5th year in the offense, and he's still asking Jimmy if he can do the simple stuff. That's wild. Yeah, like you wanted to see him do the simple stuff. He's playing for his next job, plain and simple.
I agree. It's tough. It's a tough situation the 49ers are in, but they're at least somewhat prepared. They may not have gotten Trey Lance as far along as they'd like, but he's there. It's not last season where the backups are Nick and CJ. You actually have a viable option if Jimmy doesn't, get it going. Um, but yeah, also I forgot to mention Robbie Gold is also coming back this week. So the 49ers waived kicker Joey Sly, who had been filling in for Robbie. So the 49ers will get the veteran kicker back along with Kittle and possibly Jeff Wilson Jr. And I think that there's so much going on this season, but definitely going into this week, because it's like I said it earlier, and it really is like where this season can go lies so much on this week. Because if the 49ers go out there and lose to a Colt McCoy led Arizona Cardinals team, that's going to be pretty ugly, and the fans are going to let the 49ers hear it. However, if they get the job done, take care of business, get the dub. Now they're 4-4, and yes, they're heading into a pretty tough Monday night matchup against the Rams that I think almost everybody thinks they're not going to be able to win. But then they're still, 4-5. So speaking, just looking ahead a bit, a lot rides on this game, and we'll get into our predictions and all that later, Matt. But just general feeling, how are you feeling heading into Sunday? Good about it, bad about it?
It's a double edged sword. This team seems to play much better on the road, as evidenced by them not winning any games at home since last year. I want to see them come out with energy, come out with fire, and just from the gun from pillar to post, from beginning to end, just have a solid outing all the way around. I don't think they've put that game together yet. I think they have it in them. This vulnerable Cardinals team it's time to take advantage of that. Like I said earlier, even if Kyler Murray plays, he's going to be injured. So you want to see what they can do, and you want to take advantage of somebody who's in downstate. You have to play above the level of your opponent, especially when they're in a position that's going to be inferior to you. There's no excuse not to do that.
I totally agree. I'm looking up their injury report right here, and I saw, let's see, as of earlier today, this is from Darren Urban of Cards Chatter. No Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, no Rashard Lawrence. It's the scenario Cliff Kingsbury basically predicted. No practice this week, but he and Kyler both said he could still play, and he would anticipate Murray as a game time decision. So it looks like they're going to try and stretch it out as long as possible. My only point about all this is why risk it? I mean, they've lost one game this season, and you're going to put him out there, possibly risk being out there and injuring that ankle more. I mean, does it really make sense? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I never play like they're either ready to go or they're not. You know what I mean? Like doesn't matter if it's Kyler Murray. Doesn't matter. I mean, Debo and D Ford are questionable this week or whatever. If you think you can go, then you go. If you don't, then hold them back. I don't play this like, do you risk it? Like, this isn't the NBA where they have 82 games or baseball where they have 162 and you can lose a guy for 5 games and it doesn't really matter or whatever. Every week matters in the NFL. And it's pretty tight for that last wild card spot. So, it's pretty tight at the top of the division too. So whether you're Arizona or whether you're the 49ers, every game counts. And if your guys think they can go, let them go. Because if you're playing to not get people hurt, I mean, it's football. Like you cannot play. It's similar to when a team has a lead in the second half and then they start playing not to lose. And inevitably what happens? They lose the lead and stuff like that. So it's like, who's to say, even if they left, didn't play a game or whatever, when they came back that they weren't going to get hurt then? Oh, what happens if they get hurt then? You know what I mean? So you make your best informed decision. The player's always going to want to play. And if there's no extended or imminent risk of them getting hurt more, then you play them. I don't believe in this. Oh, I gotta maybe they'll get hurt, so maybe they shouldn't play. That to me, that's coaching cowardly.
Okay, I like that. And yeah, that's a good. I mean, like you said, it's not baseball, it's not basketball. 17 games now, each one counts, and it is a tight race at the top of the NFC. Um, Man, I mean, I just feel like maybe it's the 49ers fan and he's just trying to get some optimism going and saying, why risk it, Cardinals? Just sit him out, let Colt McCoy play. Um, Maybe
Oh, I
that's
mean,
just
as
me
a
talking.
fan, for
Yeah,
sure, I hope Kyler Murray doesn't play.
yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm
go
50
ahead.
50 on that too because I want them to play the best people possible and then, beat them because then that makes them look better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point as well. Then you'll start to hear the, oh, well, they didn't even have, which I think is funny. And I don't know who it was exactly pointed out on Twitter. My apologies, I should have written it down. But they said, nobody discounted the wins against the Niners when people said, oh, we beat the Niners. Well, yeah, we didn't have a quarterback, running back, tight end. I mean, just when the Cardinals beat the
Oh,
49ers
Green
a
Bay
couple weeks
celebrated
ago.
that last year, remember?
Green Bay as well. Yeah, exactly. So you can only play, you've said it 1,000 times on this show, you can only play who's in front of you. And that's all that matters. So you touched on Debo and D Ford. The injury report officially going into the Cardinals as of today. Jimmy Ward and Mo Hurst are both out, and Elijah Mitchell, Debo, and D Ford will all be questionable. Um, which of the three injuries do you think concerns you the most
I mean,
out of?
Debo, obviously.
Okay.
He's been the entire offense essentially in terms of the passing game. Um, I mean, the separation between him and the second most receiving yards on the team is pretty astronomical. So you get concerned with that. Kittle's coming back. Ayuk seems to be on an upswing, so maybe you can weather the storm. But it just looks like Debo is playing on a different level. So if he can't go or like he's not as effective, that's really going to hurt this offense, and they're going to have to find a different way to move the ball and get points because you can't just have Debo. I mean, even to the point where Debo's so good this year, he's bailed Jimmy out of a couple of interceptions because he's been able to come back to the ball, catch it, and then still make something happen. So that's the one. I mean, that's he's been their entire offense. So to me, that's the one that's most concerning. Obviously,
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you could make the argument for Elijah Mitchell just because of how much he gets the offense going on the ground. But if Jeff Wilson Jr. plays, Jermichael Hasty's back, and hey, Trey Sermon is still on this roster. Although, how likely do you think it is that he's inactive come Sunday if Jeff Wilson gets the call?
not likely. Not likely. I don't know what it is, but he does not seem to be in a position where Kyle wants to have anything to do with him. And it's unfortunate because they wasted such a high draft pick on him. But I mean, he's sitting there just on the sideline week after week after week after week, just this, healthy scratch or he's active and he's not getting anything. And it's crazy. I just don't understand what they're doing with him. You'd think that they were able to do something or fit him into the offense in one point or another. And I know some people say that, oh, maybe they're just waiting until he, Trey Lance is starting because he's a better fit with Trey Lance or whatever. But I mean, listen, my old man, like my old one of my favorite wrestlers back in the day, Macho Man Randy Savage, he said the cream always rises to the top. So I don't know, man. He seems like he's like a lump of coal. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on with him, but it's disappointing, and I don't know what the coaches want to do with him. Concerning to me overall, but if Jeff Wilson Jr. plays, he's not going to be active.
I agree with you there. And people are saying, it's the whole uh, package for Trey Lance. And once Trey Lance gets the reins, then we're going to see Trey Sermon and we're going to see Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore, and they're going to make the switch to all these guys. I think that's kind of weird if that really is the case, because like you said, if they can play and help the team win now, when they desperately need these wins, why not play them right now? And if I remember correctly, Trey Sermon is averaging like 4 yards a carry. Or he currently is, I think, still averaging about 4 yards a carry. And he can't seem to get any carries. I don't think he got a single one against the Bears. So Elijah Mitchell potentially not playing, I think could really hurt this offense. And it would just have to fall on perhaps Trey Sermon or Jeff Wilson. We'll have to see. I'm so excited to get George Kittle back though. And you talked about, Brandon Ayuk and how it seems like he got this whole situation hopefully behind him. Tim Kawakami of The Athletic put out an article, I believe it was yesterday, talking about how him and Kyle had words. Well, it wasn't, I shouldn't credit only Tim. Brandon Ayuk said it in a press conference. But he basically said, we got into it. I mean, I think the exact quote was, we had some words for each other. And Brandon Ayuk kind of nervously chuckled. I thought also, just side note, it's a little interesting that they call him Kyle. I mean, I understand he's very young and close to their age, but every football I've been around any team, it's coach, coach, coach. Granted, there's always been a large age gap. What do you make of this whole Kyle and Brandon Ayuk apparently having it out and burying the hatchet?
It seems like it was something that was needed. There was a big Tim Kawakami did a big article or whatever where like Brandon Ayuk self-admittedly like I don't practice well. I wasn't practicing last year, but everybody was hurt, so they had no choice but to play me. So it seems like now that he has expectations, it's one of those things where he needs to learn how to practice. And you know, the Kyle thing, everybody calls him Kyle. I feel like that's just the nature of the beast or whatever. But it's who said, I can't remember who said it, but like in college, it's like coach, whatever, right? But in the NFL, it's your first name because you're all adults, you're all professionals, whatever, whatever. So that to me is one thing. But Ayuk needing to learn how to practice and self-admittedly needing to learn how to practice. To me, one of the things that I saw when we were all questioning, why isn't Brandon Ayuk playing in the game more? Why isn't he playing? And everybody was like, Kyle is being dumb for this and this and this and that. Kyle had a purpose for that. And so it restored a little bit of my faith in Kyle's coaching ability to see that the receiver himself acknowledged, like, dude, I was messing up. And I really needed, and not like the Dante Pettis last year kind of thing where he said, oh, yeah, it was good for me, but there were no specifics. Like Brandon Ayuk was saying, I'm not practicing the right way. And they like when I got here, they said they're going to coach you hard, right? But it's for a purpose. And like he didn't understand that. And now he's starting to get it. And they needed to have those words to kind of get over the hump. And hopefully that's what it takes and that he can definitely, take the next step forward.
Yeah. Gosh, this whole time, sorry, I was trying to get my dang The Athletic password. Apparently, I didn't have it saved in my laptop, so I have the article up, and I just wanted to get the actual quotes. But you talked about him coming in as a rookie, and he said, I came in, I was a day one starter. I didn't practice last year the way they wanted me to practice. Didn't do a lot of things the way they wanted me to do last year, but we didn't have a lot of people. We were hurt at receiver, so I was kind of forced to play. Now it's kind of turning back time and learning those things that I could have been doing that were missed last year. So
Yeah.
that's huge. And we saw it last Sunday. I mean, season high, 44 yards. Yeah, I know it's not crazy, but it's better than what we had seen in the previous, 6 games. So that's big. 5 games, I think. So I really do think this is Brandon Ayuk turning the corner. And if he's able to get it going and the 49ers are able to have two viable threats with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, with the addition of George Kittle, yeah, man, I'm excited about that. I really do think that could be a good offense, even with Jimmy and all of his limitations, because Brandon Ayuk and Debo are so good after the catch. They
Yeah.
got the whole Yak Bros nickname going 2 seasons ago or last season. So if this is something they can build on, I'm excited to see what comes from here. And I really do appreciate the openness and transparency of both Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan talking about the situation. And you said it in the chat. Forgive me if you just said it and I missed it, but talking about how this kind of gained some more respect for Kyle Shanahan for you, for
Mm-hmm.
how he handled this whole situation. And I also got to give you credit again, Matt, because everybody else, just like you said, was saying, Brandon or Kyle, what are you doing? Use Brandon. Kyle, what are you doing? And you came on here and were saying, what if Ayuk's just not doing it right? What if he's just not living up to, he's not making par? And
Yeah.
sure enough, it does kind of seem like that's what was going on.
Yeah, my thing was like he's playing all these snaps and they're not targeting him. Like part of that has to be that he's just not doing the job well enough. That he's not in the position that he's supposed to be in. And he kind of like said that. He alluded to it, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can get 10 catches a day, or it's like if you're not in the right spot, they're gonna stop you. Even on a hard dig where you catch the ball, if you're not in the right spot, that means something and you have to be there. So I think that played a huge part in what was going on for sure.
I agree. And again, hopefully this is it. But I do think it's telling too that how many times did we hear he had a good week of practice? Oh, well, he needs to learn how to practice like a pro. And that just seemed to go over most fans' heads, including myself. I'm not excluding myself from that group. But it really does seem like that's kind of where this whole issue was, is that, he wasn't putting in 100% when he wasn't with the ball. I think that's what he even said in the press conference,
Mm-hmm.
is that, I was giving it my all, but it's the plays that don't, shine on me,
Yeah.
that I need to give it my all as a blocker. I need to give it my all clearing the field. So,
Yeah, he said something like in practice, like they're looking at you to like run out everything. Like even if you're not catching the ball, you need to run it out. And he's like, I wasn't always doing that. So Christopher Johnson says my frustration is it shouldn't have taken so many weeks to have that conversation all in the midst of losing games. You know what though? Everything in its own time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it takes like, hey, is he going to figure this out on his own, or do we need to step in and really say something? And then you have to gauge whether or not the player is going to be receptive to what you're telling him, because you could have that conversation week one, but if the player's like, nah, screw that, man. Like I'm doing good. Like I don't know. I'm still good. Like imagine trying to have that conversation week 14 last year when Ayuk is like the talk of the NFL, maybe potential, rookie of the year candidate or whatever, and you're trying to tell him this. He's gonna be like, nah, it's cool.
yeah.
You have to get him to a point where he's so frustrated with what's going on and knows that part of it is on himself. So that makes him receptive to the coaching that you're trying to give him. Communication's a two-way street. So even if Kyle was like, man, I need to tell him, if Brandon wasn't ready to hear it, then it's just going to fall on deaf ears. And that's something that we don't see in the public eye, that, managers have to deal with in the regular working sector, that bosses have to do all the time. You gotta manage to your employees. You gotta coach to your employees in a way that's like conducive to the way that they're going to learn, and is the least confrontational while being the most beneficial. So they might not have been ready for that conversation until now, but now it's out there. So let's see what happens moving forward.
Exactly. And like you said, everything in its own time. Perhaps this finally came to a head where it was inevitable. You couldn't avoid it any further. This needs to be said, and let's have it out. Let's finally have it out, because this could have been a situation where both sides felt like they were 100% right in their own. And perhaps they were able to get through it, bury the hatchet, and now it seems like things are a lot more positive moving forward. Christopher Johnson added, fair follow up to that. I saw a report that Emmanuel Sanders said in 2019, I'm basically the wide receivers coach now. Should we be questioning Wes Welker? I said this today in the group chat. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if you remember, if you saw it, Matt. But yeah, Emmanuel Sanders basically implied that these wide receivers were not being coached correctly up until he was traded for. And we saw it with the production on the field. Wes Welker is the big name, and a lot of people know him because of what he did on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's giving him a little too much leeway for what he can do with the headset and as a coach?
I don't know. I think that people overreact to stuff. Like, tell me a professional athlete that doesn't hype themselves up for their own thing, right? Like, I bet you if you asked Richard Sherman, he'd be like, I coached the DBs here. I was the coach. I bet you if you talk to, go to this team or that team or whatever team, DeAndre Hopkins, like, I'm the wide receiver coach now. That's just how it goes. Because you could look at it both ways, right? Like Emmanuel Sanders is gone, and now Deebo Samuel is one of the top wide receivers in the league. So is that Wes Welker? You know what I mean? Like Brandon Ayuk is strong, Deebo's not. So which one is Wes Welker? You know what I mean? So you definitely can have you can look at it both ways. People want to look at lowest common denominator, like who's the worst person on the team. Like that's who we're going to go after. That the coach should coach up the worst person on the team. Debo's breakout is all Debo. It's no coaching at all. It's all Debo. Brandon Ayuk struggles. That's all coaching. Brandon Ayuk's too talented to be held down like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can try to pick it apart like that, but I don't know. I don't think that it's fair to really look at it from either perspective. You just kind of have to trust in the team to do what's right. But as far as Emmanuel, like, of course he's going to say that. Oh yeah, I was the veteran presence that they needed or whatever.
That's fair. That's fair. The only thing I'll say in defense of that maybe take is that the results were evident once he got to the 49ers. Anything prior to that, Debo was not doing well. KB was maybe doing still okay, but I feel like the wide receivers took a whole nother step after Emmanuel Sanders got there. And it looked like there was a noticeable decline after he left last season, too. Causation, correlation, I know they don't equal each other. However, I think it's worth saying. Mike McDaniels, the 49ers offensive coordinator, was asked about Brandon Ayuk, and he said he's looked like the player we envisioned when we drafted in terms of him having a lot of physical tools, but he also has the mindset and is a young guy who's finally understanding what it means to be a pro and approach every practice as if I'm determining the game. There it is again, Matt. Learning how to be a pro. So it does seem like that's what the
Yeah.
whole situation was.
Listen, I'll just say this. I know that you talk about, Emmanuel Sanders, everybody learn how to be a pro. Let me just push back on the Emmanuel Sanders thing. Like there, you say, oh, there was a fall off last year. Well, yeah, Jimmy was hurt all season, so they played with Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. That makes a huge difference. Second of all, the 49ers got Emmanuel Sanders October 22nd, 2019. What was the 49ers record before he got there?
6-0? I don't
8-1.
remember. 8-1, okay.
So let's not act like the 49ers absolutely were not winning without Emmanuel Sanders. Like, that's just BS. So
No, they weren't losing.
I mean, you can miss me with all that. Like,
I didn't say he was the MVP. I said what he did for the receivers was noticeable.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, Debo literally said I didn't even know how to watch film until Sanders came. So that's worth something.
Right. I mean, but that's the same thing that they said about Sanu, right?
I haven't heard that. Did they say that about Sanu?
They were pissed when they cut him because he was like an on-field coach.
That's true. So maybe it was just
how
a veteran
many
presence.
veteran coaches do you need before you figure it out, dude? And then what's the difference between it's like, look at it like this. When you're in high school and your parents tell you, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, right? But your friend's like, nah, that's good. You're going to roll with your friend, of course. Like, sometimes coaching is just going to bounce off you a little bit, right? Because you're a professional. You're like, I got this. I'm talented, whatever. But when you have a contemporary tell you something, especially someone who's been in the league like Emmanuel Sanders, you know what I mean? So for me, it's not maybe it's not the coaching that was the issue. Maybe it was that Sanders has the cachet as a player to get through to the player in the way that they need to be gotten through to, despite the fact that the coaches are probably doing the same thing,
That's
like
fair.
you're watching film with the coaches. If you need a player to tell you how to figure that out to watch it with the coaches, then I don't know what to tell you.
Someone wasn't doing something right. I'll leave it there. Either the players weren't listening.
I mean, I know you want to pump
correctly.
up Emmanuel Sanders, but I think that's a little overblown.
I don't care for Emmanuel Sanders one way or another. I just thought that the players said it themselves that he came in and they learned a lot from him. And the stats I thought showed it.
Yeah, players say a lot of shit, though. Just ask Damon Arnett.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, we'll leave that there.
Just ask Aaron Rodgers today.
Yeah, that's also something we'll leave there. We talked about the 49ers injury report, and again, unfortunately, Deebo Samuel showed up on it with that calf injury, which Kyle Shanahan said is worse than last week. Deebo wants to play against the Cardinals, so they were going to see how he feels leading up to Sunday and hope to see how that goes. They don't want to suit him up this per Cam Inman just to have him play a couple snaps. Is this that same kind of calf injury that we had seen the past couple of years from him, do you think, Matt?
Well, last year he had the hamstring.
Okay, that's right.
That was different. But it is a lot of lower body injuries, soft muscle tissue injuries or whatever. I would probably hold him out this week since you're getting Kittle back. Give him the Kittle treatment and just hold him out. Like, you're getting a weapon back. You got a team that's a little wounded, especially so it really depends, because if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins don't play, I definitely wouldn't play Deebo. No need. Even if you don't put him on the injury report as out, just don't play him. Just have him dressed. You can sit on the sideline. Doesn't matter. You're probably better than who he'd suit up if you were out. It'd probably be what, Austin Watkins or whatever, who they just signed again. Yep. So it'd be okay, we're gonna roll out Ayuk and Sanu, and we're gonna roll out with Kittle, and we're gonna hope for the best if there's no Murray and Hopkins. If both those guys play, maybe you take it up closer to a game time decision. But if it was me, I might save them for the Rams, because they're going to need all the help they can get against that Rams offense.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that next Monday night game is going to be...
And it's Monday, so he gets an extra day.
Yep, that's going to be a tough one. If no Kyler, no DeAndre, I agree with you. Just rest him. Don't risk further aggravating it. However, if he feels like he's able to go, let him go. Let him take a shot.
Yeah.
Um, on the flip side of the ball, obviously the big loss. I think it was announced last week or the week before. Kinlaw out for the season. He had
Yep.
surgery. His surgeon released a statement today. Let me pull it up real quick and read it to you from Dr. Tim McAdams, Dr. Neil Atrache. I apologize, I probably mispronounced that. And the 49ers medical staff, they said 49ers defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw recently underwent successful surgery to repair his right knee. As persistent symptoms limited Javon's performance, we consulted with medical experts and determined that the best course of action was to perform surgery. Evaluation of the knee and surgery confirmed suspicions that the ACL had chronic changes that would be best treated with ACL reconstruction. This procedure gives him the best opportunity to make a full recovery and return to play football in 2022. This sounds like a pretty serious surgery, Matt. I mean, is
I
it
mean, to me, it
essentially an
sounds like,
ACL?
hey, we did an ACL repair on, like he got an ACL repair done. It healed funky, so we got to do it over. That's what that is. So I don't know. I think to me, it's a good thing because however it healed, it was obviously causing him discomfort, which means it was either it was rubbing on something or, it was impeding some type of like motion or whatever, which could lead to wear and tear, which could lead to it just tearing again. So it's better to do it now than way too long. It just brings about questions to that whole weird coaching staff says he's injured, but Kinlaw's on social media being like, "No, I'm good" or whatever. It's such a weird situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really is. Prognosis, I know it's tough just going off of what the little statements are from the doctors, but do you think this is something? Because it sounds like they had an idea of what the problem was, and then the surgery confirmed their suspicions, like they said. Looking forward, do you think this is something that shouldn't bother him anymore, roughly
Yeah, I mean, if
speaking?
they fix it, yeah.
Okay.
Like, and so they have a suspicion, right? And the way that it works in medicine, it's like even if um, you know, on MRI it says torn ACL. You don't know for sure if it's torn or how bad it's torn or where it's torn until you actually get in there. Imaging can only tell you so much unless you get into the knee and look at it. You're not going to really know for sure. So they had a suspicion. They went in there. They fortunately were confirmed in their suspicion, and they were able to hopefully fix it. And it should heal in a way that, especially with a professional, strength and conditioning team and a rehab team, it should help him out going forward. So, hopefully this is something that, I mean, he's probably going to miss into next year, but hopefully once that's done, it's done.
Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully that's
And
it
that's not for
because,
sure, right? He could come back. We've seen players
right.
late in the year with ACL tears. This, I think it's hard. I think they're just going to re-anchor it, but I don't know for sure. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I mean, it's promising because
yeah.
if it is, like you said, they were able to successfully fix the problem. The 49ers have a hell of a football player on their hands, and this has kind of been the one
Mm-hmm.
nagging problem with him. And I kind of hesitate to say problem, but it is a problem because it keeps him off the field. So if they're able to correct
It's
it,
that same thing, right? Where people are like, "Oh, he's a bust. We should have traded Buckner. He's a piece of crap. Blah blah blah. He doesn't do anything." And then when he plays one game and doesn't play the next, they're like, "Damn, that run stuffing ability, man. He's so good at run stuff." And it's just so hopefully this kind of gets all that out of the way. I do want to address Christopher Johnson's last
mhm.
comment though, where he says, "To your point, what about considering a pitch count for Debo and simply getting Ayuk, Kittle, and others more involved?" Because I agree, we need him for the Rams. Still got to win the game though. Here's the thing: a calf does not care about your pitch count. Pitch count. The term pitch count is for pitchers who have come back from an injury, and you're trying to limit their chance of re-injury. Debo's already injured, which means one push off could strain that calf even more. I mean, we've seen it so many times. Like last year, he tried to go with that hamstring, right? And he was going to be on a pitch count, and he got one carry on a reverse and was out of the game. All it takes is one play, especially with like a calf. You don't want to mess with that too much. I mean, I'm sure Kevin Durant was on a minutes count when he came back for the Warriors and still popped that thing. So you got to be very careful with that kind of thing. And soft tissue muscle injuries, it's not in terms of a pitch count. It's
Yeah.
he's already injured. You have to manage that injury, plain and simple.
Yep. And Debo, I think himself, it was either Debo or Kyle said that they don't want to have him out there for a limited number of snaps. Either he's going to play or he's not.
Yeah.
I think the term they use is pitch count, but yeah, exactly. Um, so going over to the Cardinals side of the ball, their final injury report as of today: J.J. Watt obviously out, Rashard Lawrence, their defensive lineman, out, running back Jonathan Ward out, safety James Wiggins out, and the three questionable: Kyler Murray, wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, and offensive lineman Max Garcia. Pretty big names on this injury report. If Kyler and DeAndre can't go, then Colt McCoy will be suiting up back there, and yeah, they still have a heck of a receiver group without DeAndre Hopkins. But how much of that comes with Kyler Murray, that remains to be seen. I do like the 49ers' chances. I like them even if Kyler plays. I like them a lot more if he doesn't. We're going to get into our predictions and all that, and then wrap up the show so you guys can get on with your Friday night. But first, let's say a quick thank you to our sponsors, guys. First, we got to say thank you to MyBookie. Head over to MyBookie.ag and MyBookie.ag, enter promo code HIVE as an HIVE. 49ers got this huge game this weekend, right, guys? Cardinals, 49ers, divisional showdown. Does Kyler play? Does he not? Well, go check out if they can keep this streak, turn the streak, I should say, into a 2-game winning streak. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's all we got right now. And then not only that, but there's a nice Sunday night game with the Titans and Rams. Also in the NFC West, obviously, the 49ers fans are going to be keeping a good eye on that. They're going to go toe-to-toe on Sunday Night Football, so you can safely smash the over at MyBookie.ag. Don't just take my word for it, guys. Head to MyBookie.ag, sign up now, use our promo code again, promo code HIVE, to get your first deposit doubled up to $1,000. Deposit $100, they'll match you $100. Deposit $200, they'll match you $200, all the way up to $1,000. And right now, you'll get a $20 casino chip as well to bet on the MyBookie Casino. Remember, good friends don't let friends win alone. So have your buddies use your referral link, MyBookie.ag, code HIVE in the description below. And you guys will receive an additional 250% bonus if you refer them as well. So MyBookie.ag, code HIVE. I can't speak tonight, Matt. MyBookie.ag, code HIVE. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Next, we want to give a quick shout out to 81 by Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens started his own wine company, guy. 81vino.com, code HIVE, 10% off, free shipping on 2 or more bottles. Go support the great Terrell Owens. Thank you to 81 Vino for sponsoring the show. We appreciate you guys. Next, we got to shout out our gold stamp, as Matt calls it, Acre Gold. Get Acre Gold, guys. Link in the description below. Click on it. You can start buying gold for as little as $50 a month. You no longer have to fork out hundreds of dollars to buy gold. Once you reach the market price of 2.5 grams, Acre Gold will discreetly send you a nice gold bar or gold stamp, as Matt calls it, because it is a little small. But it's 2.5 grams. I guarantee it. Next, our merch. Shop49ershype.com, code RGS15, as in Red Gold Standard 15. 50% off your entire purchase, guys. We got a bunch of new merch. Debo, Trey Lance behind me. Go check it out. RGS15, shop49ershype.com. Thank you to all our sponsors. Go support them because they support us. All right, Matt. Wow, thank you very much. Super chat from Chris Johnson.
Wow.
We win in this game, period.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. You know, usually I do my pregame, or I shouldn't say, pregame Friday outfit is a red with the gold. And then my Victory Monday outfit is a similar red and gold, but not the same. But this past 2 weeks, I've gone with the gold. You got to switch it up when you're on a losing streak. So last Friday, I did the gold. It worked. I had to do it again today. So if so, looks like I got a new Friday outfit going. How much do you expect to see from Trey Lance this Sunday? We didn't see him much last week. Kyle Shanahan basically said it was because of his injury. They didn't want to risk it. What are you expecting?
Yeah, man, I feel like he's going to get maybe a little. It's so hard, right? Because we've heard, oh, they're going to do the 2 quarterback thing, this and this and that. I really think it's going to depend. I don't think we're going to see much of Trey Lance unless Jimmy's not getting it done, to be honest. Maybe a third and goal here, a random play there, but not any extended time. Tough because you never right until that. So I would expect Jimmy plays the majority of the game, unlike he's just not getting it done. That could change.
Okay. I mean, I totally agree with that. It seems like, gosh, outside of he played the second half of the Seahawks and started the Cardinals, but outside of that, it's been very, very limited. He came in for a few plays against the Lions, a couple of goal line plays against the Packers. I don't think he played at all against the Eagles. And outside of that, yeah, he didn't play at all last week. So I agree with you. I think unless the 49ers have a very, very comfortable lead, or Jimmy's not getting it done, we likely won't see him outside of 2 to 3 snaps, perhaps at the goal line, which is unfortunate because I do think these are very, very necessary for him in his
Yeah.
development at this stage. Thank you, Christopher. Zach Say's coming with the drip on Victory Mondays. I got to do it to him. Thank you very much. Leonardo says, love this podcast. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. Thank you all. Matt, let's get into our offensive and defensive MVP predictions, and then we'll wrap it up with the final score prediction. Offensive MVP, who do you got?
I am going. You know what? I'm going to go off kilter here, and I'm going to listen. Let's believe the hype. Let's believe that he really did have a conversation. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. Let's say
Okay.
5 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown.
Dang, okay. So he double his season best from last week. I like it. I like it. For me, this is tough, man. This really is tough because if Debo doesn't play, do they go with Ayuk? And if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play, do they go with Wilson? Do they go with Hasty? You know what? I'm going to go George Kittle.
I knew you were going to.
Returning from
do
injury.
that. You were
You
dancing
got
around
it.
everybody but George Kittle.
You gotta do it. George Kittle returning from injury at home. I think we're going to see a couple of play action passes where Jimmy's most comfortable, maybe a couple deep shots down the middle to George. And I think he's going to have a pretty triumphant return. And he seems to always have nice games against the Cardinals. So George Kittle is
when Buda Baker's not taking his knees out.
Yeah, exactly. So George Kittle, offensive MVP. I'm going to go 6 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Yep.
Solid.
Yep.
Solid. All right, defense going to be easy. Y'all know what I'm going to say. I've been saying it all week. Nick Bosa, 3 force. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen sooner or later.
Against this offense or the defense or whatever, it happened. It's going to happen.
It could happen. It very well could. Look, it's only a matter of time. Nick Bosa is an animal. He's going to get his out there. I could see it this week.
7 sacks games, dude.
Yep. He's on fire. Defensive MVP for me. This is tough. I don't want to go Fred. I'm going to go maybe a little bit of a sleeper here, but I'm going to go with Eric Armstead.
Okay.
And they're moving him inside with Javon Kinlaw out. The 49ers, we didn't even talk about this. They traded for Charles Omenihu. I might be mispronouncing his name. And we'll see how much play he gets, but he will be now kind of replacing Armstead on the edge, and Armstead gets kicked inside. I think Armstead looked kind of foolish a bit last week with Justin Fields running around him, spinning around him, getting out of his grips when he had him dead to rights. Perhaps we see a motivated Armstead this week. So yeah. I'm going to go Armstead, 2 sacks.
All right. Nice.
But he normally doesn't get sacks, so that's it. Also, guys, comment your offensive and defensive MVP predictions as well while you're watching. If you get it right, we'll send you some merch. Same with the final score. Final score, exactly. Send the predictions, final score predictions. You get it right, we'll send you merch. Who do you got? Final score.
Man, it's tough because we don't know yet whether or not Kyler Murray's playing. That changes the complexion. I'm going to assume that he does. And so my final score with a limited Kyler Murray is 49ers 28, Cardinals 23.
Matt with the win.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I'm going to say he does as well. I don't know why. I just feel like the 49ers aren't going to get completely lucked out, but it's still going to be a, I don't want to say diminished, but an unhealthy Kyler Murray. Um, and I don't know why I get this feeling that if one plays, the other doesn't. So I'm going to say DeAndre Hopkins doesn't play, Kyler Murray plays, and on a hobbled knee, I'm going to say 23-14 Niners.
All right.
9-point win. I like it. I like it a lot.
Very good. Very
Yep.
good.
So comment your guys' final score predictions down below in the chat. If you hit it right, like we said, we'll send you some free merch. Not one person in 2 seasons of doing this has gotten it right,
Not
but
yet.
somebody
It's
will.
it's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen.
It's like
Exactly.
Bosa 3 sacks and a forced fumble. It's going to happen at some point.
Yep. Guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This was a nice Friday night. Just got a chance to talk some football with all you guys. Come back on Sunday after the game. We'll be live with you guys. So have fun. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Absolutely. Thank you as always for joining us, guys. We can't wait for the game this weekend. So until next time, go Niners.